Man did not heed this warning. The sacred cosmic tree burned to cinder. And so the darkness came, claiming all that was bright and living in Thea. When all hope was lost, after a century without light, the sun rose once more.
Surprises are foolish, and the pleasure is not enhanced, and the inconvenience is often considerable. Jane Austen once said that, according to a sleep-deprived Google search I did anyway. Having once read a book and being an opinionated marginally young person, I feel the authority to call bullshit on old Killjoy Jane. I posit to you, surprises are rad, especially in video games and cereal boxes. Many games have titles that evoke wicked amounts of mystery, but very few manage to infuse that enigmatic flavour into the actual game itself. Enter Thea the Awakening, a game that not only has an enigmatic sounding title, but also offers gameplay that does everything it can to devise simple genre labels. Thea at its core is a fascinating, if not surprisingly malformed offspring you'd expect from an unsanctioned union between a strategy game, a roguelike, an RPG, a survival game, and a 4X game. Oh, and there's a card game in there watching too from the closet. I'd assume this orgy of mechanics would equal a gameplay cacophony, but I was completely wrong. It's actually kind of exciting. At first. The world of Thea is a harsh, quasi-Slavic fantasy realm, where humanity has been pushed to the brink of destruction by an apocalyptic darkness. But good news! The darkness is lifting, and you play as a deity, who apparently had an existential crisis during the end of the world, resulting in you becoming as passive as a political science major. You have to benevolently watch over a ramshackle bastion inhabited by your worshippers, who broadly fall into three categories: builders, gatherers, and warriors. Assigning the right villagers to the right tasks is a necessity, otherwise you'll starve or freeze to death before you even have a chance to experience the crueler aspects of the game. Whilst managing your settlement, you'll have to send expedition parties out into the wilderness and explore and complete quests, but more importantly, you have to gather more resources. Now, RPG and leveling mechanics are nothing new to 4X games. Civ and Total War have been over that shit for years. It's the roguelike and accompanying permadeath that really mixes things up in Thea. Simply put, Thea is out to screw you up. But then again, that's kind of the appeal. Depending on the luck of the draw, you may have a ton of resources right next to you, or you may have none. Exploring them becomes the only viable means of survival, and with that comes the anxiety of risking your party. Giant spiders, bandits, and Baba Yaga are obvious targets to avoid early on, but a simple hunt can end with your best warrior getting gored and dying 2 turns later. This realization turns everything into a serious risk-reward calculation. But just when you're starting to become all Rain Man with the survival calculations, Thea throws random events into the mix. These can be good things, like finding rare gear or having a delightful sprite bless your village. But more often than not, they're just plain bad, like an asshole werewolf stealing up your kids, or suddenly everybody in your village getting fantasy Ebola. Having no way to counter these situations just comes across as an artificial difficulty spike, and less like engaging gameplay or narrative scenarios. When you're given the chance to fight back, Thea uses that card system I mentioned earlier, and much like the closet it's peering out of, it lacks depth and feels really confined. The bouts typically become rote, and only ever really have 2 win states: easy victory or absolute massacre of all your hopes and dreams. There is, however, an auto-resolve button, but never use it. Much like other aspects of the game, you are punished for favoring efficiency. By the mid-game, the allure, the fear, and the fragility you felt going in has all but dissipated. Depending on how kind the gods of procedural generation were to you, you'll end up playing it safe and boring. Why risk anything when you can just gather the closest resources, craft better defenses, and build up your village in relative peace? This is kinda sad though, as the smart way to play stops you from experiencing the surprisingly deep world narrative and interesting story quests that scatter the land. Thea the Awakening is by no means a perfect game, but it's boldly different, which in my opinion is a far better thing. In a gaming space saturated by the same 5 genres complete with plenty of competent disciples, different is refreshing. Thea has a lot to offer, with a shit ton of mechanics that work, but suffers from not doing any of them very well.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, Mike is back with his video game shoebox and a look at Mortal Kombat, while Jonny explores the mechanics of time in the new one from Remedy, Quantum Break. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.